Successful Minds with Patricia Barnowski-Schneider, the show that takes you around the world to share interviews with some of the most successful and relevant people on the planet. Hear their stories and get the most important business lessons they have learned on their road to success and get exclusive advice on how to implement their success into your life and business. Successful Minds with Patricia Barnowski-Schneider is brought to you by the Strategic Advisor Board and your host, Patricia Barnowski-Schneider.
Hello and welcome back to Successful Minds. I'm your host, Patty Baranowski-Schneider. Today I'm joined by Nadija Bajrami, a multi-award-winning strategic hypnotherapist, hypnotherapy supervisor, certified grief educator, mind coach, psychic medium, and Reiki Master. So welcome, Nadija. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Thanks, Patricia. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you for having me here. So I think you said everything in one sentence very nicely. Sometimes I'm tired myself of having to say it all. So as you can hear, probably I am French by birth. I'm currently living in Dublin, Ireland, in Europe. I've traveled the world a lot, and I live in Scotland, and I have a corporate career as well. I had a corporate career, and until one day, very briefly, so people understand why I'm doing what I'm doing, my why behind me. I got some severe health issues and I had some brain surgeries, 3 brain surgeries. And in 2015, I had my last surgery, and I said, right, it's the time now to find my calling, my path anyway, to change my life. So I took a leap of faith and left everything behind and took literally a suitcase and my cat and was drawn to Ireland. So that was about 2017 when I came to Ireland, and I just knew that, I don't know how, but I just knew that I had to come here and find my path. So I trained as a trauma therapist initially. I let my spiritual abilities unfold, and I just trusted the process, which was quite unusual for me at the time because I used to be a control freak. And I said, never mind, we'll see what the future holds. And I trained, and very, very quickly I set up my practice. And then I did some modalities like the Reiki, but I did initially train in mind coaching and strategic hypnotherapy, trauma therapy. And the spiritual work, I think, was always there, but just, expanded here. And recently I completed a certification in grief education and support.
Okay.
And I'm currently training as an end-of-life doula. And all this, in a nutshell, comes back to trauma and grief from my own story of a lot of grief, losing a lot of loved ones. And I just thought, well, everything comes together to basically turn my pain into purpose, or wounds into wisdom.
Wow, I gotta say, I'm pretty impressed. That's a lot going on. And taking a leap of faith like that. Woo.
Yes, for me at the time, yes, it was scary. It's always scary, but I think when I reflect back, I said, okay, you did well, girl, because
Yeah,
the me
that
at the
was
time
awesome.
was very in the control. Yeah,
See, it was time.
absolutely. I think deep down when it's time for a real change, and I think
Yeah.
something within us just tell us
Yeah.
now, it's happening now, and it's very intangible. We can't describe it, but it's just there.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. Can you share a bit about your journey and what inspired you to become an empowerment, trauma, and grief specialist?
Absolutely. So when I recovered from my health issues, I just said, right, I can't stop here. I was a sales director at the time, and I said, I need help. I didn't want to do psychotherapy. I didn't feel I needed it. So I've always been very much passionate about the mind, the subconscious mind, from a very young age. And I was drawn to hypnotherapy for myself. And I was living in a very small town in France, and there was only one hypnotherapist in the whole area. And I said, well, let's try this lady and see if she can, I don't know, help me with my anger, grief. There was a lot. I lost a lot of people and everything bottled up. And I was a very angry person, very kind, but anger was always an issue. And I found this lady, and I worked with her for about 2 years. And she literally helped me change my mindset, change the way I was behaving, eating, feeling. And it also gave me the leap of faith to then come here, because when I finished with her, I had this opportunity to come to Ireland. So that was really what I would say pushed me to hypnotherapy. I always believed in it. I knew the power of the subconscious mind, but experiencing it myself was obviously a game changer. So that was the empowerment piece. Now, the trauma and grief came slightly after. I lost my dad when I was 9. My best friend at the time when I was 16, she took her own life. And my person I was very deeply in love with passed away in my mid-20s.
Right.
So a lot of things down the line contributed to my mood swings and anger. And I knew I had to work on this, which I did in the past. And when I realized that, right, maybe I can use my story and really help. I don't even like to say help, because help always implies that we're above people. But anyway, meeting people where they are on their journey. So that, in a nutshell, what inspired me to really do grief work and trauma work, because we all have in some shape or form experiencing some sort of trauma and some sort of grief. And grief is not just the end of a life, it's the end of a relationship, of sports, career, etc. And I really felt that using my own story to help other or to assist other people would also give meaning to my life.
That's pretty impressive. And I am another one who's like very into like the subconscious and all of that. And you don't realize how much goes on in our head. That because I went through something similar, not something similar, but I used to suffer insomnia, and I went through a hypnotherapist, and it turns out within 3 visits she had me cured. Apparently, as I'm sleeping, you don't know what your head is thinking of, but I was thinking of things from like when my kids were little and this guilt and all of this stuff that on an average day I wouldn't thought that this is what your goes on. So a lot goes on in our lives behind the scenes, and bringing that out can uncover a whole world of remedies.
And you have to be ready. You have to be ready. That's another thing as well, because as you just use the word, you unravel, you uncover, and sometimes it can be pretty tough, and especially when you do trauma work, it can be very. I mean, I compare the brain to, a garden where you have to weed out before you plant any new seeds, and the weeding out process is not very exciting, is it? When I am not an avid gardener, but I tried. But if you weed out, it's quite, it's tiring. It's sometimes a bit, boring. And when you do this trauma work or just the mind work, with any issue, the subconscious mind, by the time you weed out, it takes a bit of energy, and it has to be released before we can plant what we call the new seeds of change as well.
Yeah, especially with trauma, because I mean, I've learned that the brain it's designed to protect you. So if there's something traumatic that it you might not have any memory of it at all, because it's trying to protect you from that. So if it's manifesting in you and it's not good health wise or whatever, like you say, you have to pull that out. It might not be pretty, but that'll release you from a lot of issues. So
absolutely. Yeah.
Good job. Now, as a multi-award winning strategic hypnotherapist, how do you approach the integration of hypnotherapy in treating trauma and grief?
Well, that's again a very interesting question. I think all my modalities, I had this I was at a trade fair last year here in Ireland, and I had somebody approach me and ask me, how do you bring all this together? Well, hypnosis, for me, because it works with the subconscious mind, is the basis of everything. So hypnosis in itself could be a big scary word for people, because they probably have seen things on TV and TV shows, what we call stage hypnosis or entertainment. But I'm a clinician. I'm a clinical hypnotherapist, so it's a strategic or clinical. So I use hypnotherapy as obviously a therapeutic tool. So how I approach it is really using the power of your subconscious mind. When we talk about grief, for example, I'm a grief educator. So if somebody comes to me specifically for grief, I will use my grief educator techniques, my life experience, which is a big part of my job as well, to help and again meet people where they are on their grief journey or on the trauma journey. But at some stage, we say that every trauma has grief, not every grief has trauma. And when you use the power of the mind, if somebody, for example, comes for grief, say dedication or support, you will maybe not every time, but very often you will see that there is some trauma, and that the way they speak to you, the way they express themselves, shows that something in the childhood has not been resolved. And then you do some grief work, but you can then integrate the hypnosis here to deal with that piece which was not dealt with for so many years. A very, very simple example. I had a client that came to me and for grief, specifically for grief, we lost somebody very close. And then we started working. And at some stage, he kept, I think session 2 or 3, he would repeat to me, but you don't listen to me. You don't listen to me. Listen to me. And he kept repeating it. And then I stopped him and I asked, I think it's session 3, I think. I asked him, who didn't listen to you when you were growing up? And then he stopped. And then he said, oh my God. And it was like it's very strange to explain like that, but it was a very enlightening moment for him because I made him realize he did it himself, but I kind of helped him to see that, right, the little boy or the inner child, or we can call it a lot of names, but the inner little boy inside that little inner child, his needs were not met, were not nurtured at some stage. And then when he experienced deep grief, those traumas came back on top of the grief. So he felt that here again, he wasn't listened to. And that's how you can integrate the hypnosis, the grief work. It's about, it might sound a bit corny, but it's really tuning in to the person's energy. Really, it's understanding. You know, your clients speak to us. Yes, they speak to us with words. There's body language, and there's also us as therapists, and in my case, also energy worker, to read between the lines. Because in this case, it has nothing to do with me. Anyway, when we work with clients, it has nothing to do with us.
Right.
It's them, you know.
Wow. That's
Hopefully that makes sense, you know.
No, absolutely. That definitely is, because you have to kind of dissect little pieces because we don't see it ourselves. We need somebody from the outside to point it out.
Yeah.
Now, you're a certified grief educator trained by David Kessler. So how has this work influenced your approach? And what are some of the key takeaways you implement in your practice?
Now, I have to be honest, this certification with David Kessler has been, again, a game changer here and has been an amazing add-on for my own life, again, my own healing journey, and for my client, because it is not grief counseling, it's not even grief therapy. It's really it's educating people, staff members in organization, but also individuals who are experiencing grief around grief and death, as well as creating, I would say, a supportive environment for their grief to be witnessed and for the grief to be lived, you know? Yeah. So it's not just, right, I listen to you, you've lost sister, your mother, and I'm here to listen. Listening is a big part of it, but it's also challenging the person in grief. It's also reframing. Never count, going against what they're telling us, but just educating them on grief, on death. And one of the key takeaways here is, again, seems very simple, but 2 or 3 things I really learned and stuck with me. I learned a lot with David, but 2 or 3 that really stuck with me is death is random, and you didn't cause your loved one death, because when we lose somebody, we don't realize that. We think everything is against us. God is against us. The whole world is against us. And we don't realize that thousands of people dying every day. Hence, death is random. So there's a way of approaching it, obviously. I wouldn't just say to somebody, oh yeah, your loved one's death was random. But it's all those educational pieces around death, grief, figures, statistics that are quite powerful when you work with somebody going through the pain. It will never numb the pain. We're not here to take any pain away because grief is precious. It has to be lived, but it's also educating people. So then in their daily life, they can also challenge themselves when they're feeling they're going back in the rut,
Yeah, because I mean, at that time, everybody feels it's an attack on them. Why did this happen to me? Why did you? And it is true. It is random. I mean, I live in New York, so you see 9/11. Some people were on their way to work and stuck in an elevator. There's no rhyme or reason of why it happens. It just does.
And the guilt as well, that was an important takeaway, because I think, again, not everybody, but very often when there is a tragic passing or, somebody, I would say losing somebody to suicide, for example, or even more horrible, murder, etc. I have different case scenarios in my practice. The person, the loved one living that comes to see you, comes for, a bit of again, assistance, I'm not going to use help, will have a certain amount of guilt. And with the education piece and my grief work, it's also to really not just educate them, but it's to walk the path with them and explained and made them realize it's a very active process. It's not passive at all. Made them realize that they have not caused the death of their loved one. You know, and again, a very, very, very basic example, actually from David Kessler, I'm quoting him now here. He spoke about, I think, one of his friends who lost her mother, and she was in her mid-90s or early 90s in a home. And the last night before her passing, her mother used to love tortilla soup, and she would bring her the tortilla soup, and she loved it spicy, so the daughter made it, and she thought it was maybe too spicy. That night or the following morning, the mother passed away. And the daughter, who rationally, consciously knew she never killed the mother, lived for a long time with the guilt of, well, if I didn't bring the spicy tortilla soup, my mother would have had a couple of extra days or weeks or months. So to us, like this, consciously, it seems, no, this is nonsense. But when you're when you're in the depth of it, you know, we have what we call the grief brain. We don't think clearly. We have this fog. So it's another example. Anyway, with the key takeaways, it's that educational piece. I think that was my biggest takeaway. And to use your own life experience, because we are experiencing trauma. We are experiencing in grief. So
yeah, I think personal is a huge thing, because so many people they've studied, they read out of a textbook, but someone who's lived it, it has a lot more of an impact, because you know what they're going through. You understand, and you can then speak from experience as opposed to a textbook, which it's not a one size fits all.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And textbooks are amazing. I mean, you know, David Kessler co-wrote a few books with Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, who, you know, they've adapted the 5 stages of grief. This is amazing. And I mean, I'm reading a lot of books, and this really helps me to give a better service to my clients. But as you said, at the end of the day, it's also what you've been through, and the person feels that, right, this therapist, this grief educator can relate to me, this coach can relate to me. Gives it maybe a sense of safety as well, and then being heard. I think being heard, having your grief witnessed, even your trauma. We talk about grief, but even people with trauma outside of grief, what they need is a safe place, a safe space where their pain can be witnessed, because it might have never been, you know.
Now you have a diverse skill set, including being a Reiki Master and a psychic medium. So how do these different modalities complement each other in your therapeutic approach?
Another very interesting question. Now, I don't know, it's because I have to just phrase it the right way. No, it's I was talking about that with one of my because I teach mediumship as well, one of my students this morning, and I was saying, she asked me something similar. Now, we're not here to prove anything to anybody, but with my practice of mediumship, when I initially started to really let my skills unfold, a good couple of years ago, and everything I do, every training I found, everything I do at the moment has always been led by spirit. So I always was led to the right school, the right mentors, the right tutors. So they opened the way for me to do the grief work, the trauma therapy, the end of life now that I'm currently training as well. So how I'm using it, very simply, people can come to me just for like readings. They want to connect to the loved ones in the spirit world. So that's one way of doing it. But then how I use it in my other work, it's by tuning into the person's energy, not channeling messages. I mean, somebody comes with therapy, I'm not going to say, by the way, I have your Uncle Bob here, and you know, he's very happy that you brought him some sausages before he passed away. I mean, just making this up. But we're not doing that, because an important thing, I think, when you have different modalities is you give to the client what they came for. Somebody comes with the therapy, he doesn't necessarily want to know, or they don't really want to know about the afterlife, or they don't want to know, but it's your energy. I'm tuning into his energy, and I'm being guided by my own teams of spirit. Now, of course, if somebody is asking specifically or is open, then fine. But it's important, I think, for us to respect their beliefs, first of all, because when we work for people, with people and for people, we were actually neutral. I always say this, like, we come with, that's me, that's what I offer, that's who I am. I'm here for you. So I'm meeting them where they are. And the modality will really come, I think, naturally, which modalities to use. And the Reiki, same matter. I think everybody could be a Reiki master, genuinely. It's energy work. It's tapping into my energy, my life force energy, the world's life force energy, the client's life force energy, and helping them rebalance their energy. And here again, something I do a lot is hypnotherapy and Reiki. That's been working really well for me. So people would start with 30 minutes of Reiki, and then we'll do the hypnosis without bringing them back, so I really enjoy that. So again, naturally, I think energy work goes really well with the modalities I'm offering. But again, respecting clients' boundaries and their beliefs. And we only adapt to them. And if they ask, if they want something specific, then we offer. They know my offer, they know what I do. But if somebody wants just hypnotherapy, as I said, I'm not going to talk about it, Auntie Margaret or Uncle Bob.
Right.
I don't know why I came up with these words, but anyway, that's the one.
No, but it's perfect. Because it kind of like same, not the same, like, but me, I offer a bunch of stuff. And not everybody needs that. So I always say, here's everything I do. You tell me what you need, and I'll focus on that. Right. Yeah, nice.
It's very important. Anyway, that's something I'm very, because, we live in a world as well, let's face it. We have to say it. I mean, it's changing now. In England, like I was in the UK, in America, people are more open, to spiritual work. In France, it's changing now. I'm looking into that as well. But like at the end of the day, sometimes if you want to work with GPs or with, doctors here, when you go to them, or even hospitals or nursing homes, and you show them, right, I'm a psychic medium, a Reiki master, and they might think, oh my God, this
She's
is a
crazy,
weird woman.
yeah.
And it's sad, and I mean that, it's quite sad, but some people still think
it is, for sure.
And this is why it's important to say, right, but I'm a grief educator, I'm certified, I'm a trauma therapist, I'm multi-award winning therapist. This is what I'm going to work with you with. If you want to send me some clients, this is what they will get. The rest is, just like yourself, part of my offering. Yeah. We're not, people have that and I've experienced it, have that feeling where, oh, if I send this person to them, they're going to start channeling messages. No.
Yeah. Well, it's a shame because the doctors don't want to be open to this stuff because I said years ago, it was always the doctors. I always say this, politics, medical, it's the same stuff. They're no longer with your best interest. It's how much money can I make? So it's almost like they don't want to see you get better because then they lose money. So they'd rather see you sick. So they don't want to find any natural, holistic, or any type of benefit for you because then that's money they're not making. It's a shame the world becoming. So I'm glad that people are becoming more open to this because
I do feel now there's still a lot of work to do, And again, I understand in fairness, but there's been a lot of studies. I'm a very rational person. People call me the rational medium. I'm very down to earth, and I like to base a lot of my beliefs in science facts, and we know just on that piece that there's been a lot of near-death experiences, and there are a lot of studies from scientific studies that show that when physical death happens, consciousness goes on. It's been explained. I mean, not by me in my little flat in Dublin, but by scientists, and that's why I say to people, we're not. I'm not on a crusade here to tell people, there is an afterlife. Right. This is my belief. I know it's there because it's working for me. People who believe in it come to me. But it's very important to also bring people to the science. Science is showing us now there is something. And then it's up to them to go with it or not. But
yeah, they could agree, they could not agree. But, like you say, science doesn't lie.
That's what I say when people are very rushed. I say, well, it's not me. Look, these are the facts. Somebody is having a near-death experience. And a lot of studies have been carried out in the UK, in the States. When people have a near-death experience, they literally are clinically, physically dead, and they can describe when they are brought back. They can describe exactly what the surgeon was doing, what actually there was.
You hear a lot of that.
Yeah, what was written under the bed. Right. They could even see what the surgeon's wife then did when the surgeon finished. I mean, you can't. That's what I mean. It's scientifically proven. But again, we're not here to.
No, I remember seeing a movie, and it was based on a true story, and it was about a young boy who was maybe 6 or 7, and he had, I forget, I think he was in an accident or something, and he was brought to the hospital, and he had died on the table or whatnot. So anyway, when he finally came to, he was telling the mom, and she was like, were you scared? And he says, no, I don't remember the actual names, but he was saying something like, no, Sally, she took my hand and everything was good. And she's looking like, Sally, where do you get that name? He's like, that's my sister. And she was like, what? she apparently had she had a
I miss,
stillborn baby
yeah.
and buried it in the hope that the baby's name was Sally. They named it. And apparently he met her. How would he even know this? You know, so I mean, people can't
Exactly.
make this stuff
Yeah.
up.
No, you can't. And it's
Yeah.
actually right. You know, you can't because, uh, again, they're facts. And
Yeah.
that's what I love about my approach. I love facts. If somebody comes with something wishy-washy and just tells me that's how it is. No, like show me. Like
Yeah.
why would it be like that? So that's like fascinating in fairness. It really is.
Yeah. Now tell us, what are some common challenges your clients face in terms of confidence and self-esteem, and how do you help them overcome them?
Now, that's an interesting one. I think, actually, no, I don't think, I'm sure. I have to rephrase that. When people come, they come with what they think is the issue. So they'll come, I always offer a free discovery calls. We have a chat. I never take anybody on therapy, coaching, grief without having talked to them beforehand for free, no obligation, because establishing a rapport with your client is just a must, and they need to feel safe. So when they come on the call, obviously they come with, their issues, what they think is the issue. Quite a lot of the time it is the issue, but
Right.
under any of the issues I work with, there is something linked to I'm not good enough, I'm not worthy enough, all the time. I know it sounds again, people say, oh, Nadia, here she goes again with her confidence and self-esteem, because it's the basis, everything. People come to me, I don't do common issues like quit smoking and all this. I'm really specialized in trauma, confidence building, anxiety, and fears. So somebody comes for weight loss. I never work on the food with them. Never, ever.
Right.
Never. So they managed to lose weight, not because, oh, Nadia, the therapist tricked my brain to eat healthy food. We do that down the line, yes. But at the beginning is personal work, trauma work, or even trauma might be a big word, that sometimes people get, a bit spooked by trauma, the word. But what happened to them, their story. Because their story then is either keeping them safe or pushing them to eat or keeping them building a shield around them. For example, it's an example with the food. And then you realize it always comes to, at some stage in my life, somebody made me believe I wasn't enough. I wasn't listened, my needs were not met. As a child, one of my primary caregivers didn't meet my needs. We don't really think about that because, you'll ask people, well, what, anything specific in your childhood? No, great parents. Everything's fine. That's the first thing you do when people tell amazing parents, all good. I get suspicious. I said, really amazing. And then you start asking questions and you feel, all right, okay, so, so you were not allowed to eat sweets. You were very much, you were not allowed to be fat. Now the client saying like, mother would always make sure she wouldn't get fat from a very young age. So obviously, you can call it the way we want, but it is a type of trauma. And this lady carried something that, oh my God, I'm fat, I'm not good enough, and I'm disappointing mom. So going back again to childhood, to trauma, to self-esteem and confidence. So for me, the main challenges would be, yes, self-sabotage, anxiety, fears, but I tend to work again so far. I tend to bring it back to what is underneath because these are just symptoms. Anxiety, binge eating, sleepless nights, they're symptoms of something else going on, of the body telling you and the mind together, right? Listen to me, something is not right here. And very often it's that sense of wholeness, that sense of like worthiness that somewhere down the line. I mean, again, as humans, I think we can all agree that we probably all have some sort of like worthiness issues to some extent, but some people will have them, I would say, more intense, that really hinders them in their daily life, that they can't get for a job interview, for example. People come for like confidence for job interview. We work on this, yes, but then we go back a little bit to see where did that come from. You don't get up one morning thinking I'm useless at interviews, so
Yeah, I mean, you get a whole new appreciation for how the mind works because there are
absolutely.
so many things that are uncovered. Like I think, like I'll just give you an example. Had an accident and I had spent 1 month in a hospital. I had no memory of any of it.
Oh,
It's
wow.
like anything
Sorry
with
to hear that.
No, I mean, I'm okay now, but it took a while, and it's like your brain's way of protecting you. But from what I was told, like the doctors would always ask me questions to see your mind. So they would say, like, okay, it's cold out, what would you wear? And I would blurt out some crazy type of textured jacket. To this day, I don't even know what kind of jacket that is. I only knew this when family told me. It could have been something I saw on TV or read in the magazine, whatever. It's all in here. And
Yeah.
it's your body's way of protecting you. It uses bits and pieces to accommodate you, but you still have deep rooted, like I said, I have no memory of the whole accident, the month in the hospital and everything. But yet, if I'm driving and the car windows open and that wind, I get freaked out.
And you go, the
Something in
trigger.
here.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's kind of like my body. This was 7, 8 years ago.
Mm.
I still have no memory of it. My mind, obviously, it wasn't pretty, so it's protecting me. But you have a whole new, and look at gut feelings. Your body has a lot of power that we just take for granted. We don't understand it, but your body does try to help you, protect you.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So uncovering all of that is awesome.
And when we say, you know, the body keeps the score, you know, that's this famous book, the body does keep the score because when we work anyway in my line of work, we work with the mind, yes. But at some stage, you'll also have to work on the body because one way or another, I mean, I'm not a soma therapist, it's people really specializing in this, but we have to help people to release the trauma from the body. And you know when somebody talks, not just if they cry, you know, you can feel them getting tense, you can feel the body, you know, or like that anxiety here, that knot in the stomach, the tension in the shoulders, you know, I mean, I'm not a Chinese, traditional Chinese medicine practitioner, but they explain this very well with, for example, me, when I lost my dad and then after my dad passed away, I started to have chest infections, bronchitis, things that never happened, asthma. Why? Because the lungs are obviously grief, you know? That's again, the body is very clever. And as humans, and I heard that, I think in one of the podcasts a while back, and they're right, we mistreat our bodies all the time. We don't listen. And you know, we talk a lot about burnout, etc., because we don't listen to the signs. And I was the same when I had my brain tumors. I know I created them. I genuinely do, all on heart. I wasn't listening to all the signs saying, girl, you're not on the right path. This is not your life. You know, do something. And then I would dismiss. Well, I had a few physical issues, ailments, one after the other, until one day it became big and I couldn't ignore it. So
you had to be really stubborn. Your body was shaking you, saying, wake up.
Generally, and I mean, I didn't. I remember when I had the last surgery, because I said, this is really the last now. The last, and I said, because one of them left me paralyzed for a while, and then the last one, I said, okay. And I spoke at the time. I wasn't so spiritually aware. So I spoke to God, the universe, whoever was there. I said, right, if I go through, I promise I will get my acts together and I will just at least try and find my path. I had nearly this, I don't know, yeah, this promise. I said, I promise. I didn't know who I was promising it to. But I said, I promise. And I did so the fact that I got better and recovered, like a real second chance again. I know a lot of people have been through something similar, and thankfully we don't all need to go through that to understand. But I'm happy that at least I got the message. And I said, right, because the body talks to you. I mean, and I'm still a victim of it, and I'm sure most of us do. I work a lot, and I would feel my back aching, and I will feel whatever else, my shoulders. And what do? Put some heat, put some cream. Okay, like, you know, plaster. Like when we're explaining therapy. Oh, here, you're gonna get better. Put a bit of a bandage. But we never treat, why am my shoulder aching? Why is my back aching? Because they're telling me, don't you work too much? They're telling me sleep more. But no, you know, we're still stubborn. And we're still doing it until you're blocked, and then you need to go to the osteopath. And you think, oh, right, okay.
And it is a message now.
Yeah. After 10 sessions of osteopath, then you think, right, okay. Then you do it again sometimes 2 years later. But it is wonderful how the mind and the body work together. And it becomes really fascinating. I love what I do, really, because you learn so much every day, and every client will teach you something. So it's infinite, really.
It's awesome. Nice. Now, can you discuss your approach to helping clients manage anxiety and symptoms stemming from traumatic experiences?
So, yeah, I always tell them, and I think that's something, I mean, I've learned that a long time ago, but when I trained with David Kessler, there's something else that really stuck with me that I use in my trauma work. So I'm eating my hair. My trauma work and my grief work. It's making a distinction between the facts and the stories. So how people with anxiety is, right, what is the fact? Well, I can talk about it. Can take any type. Sometimes people don't know why they're anxious, but anxiety is very crippling. I think we can agree on this. And when we work around anxiety at the beginning, it's always the same. It's people think, well, I have a knot in my stomach, I have palpitations, I'm sweating, I can't sleep, etc. I can't eat, whatever, depending on the severity of the anxiety. And linked to fear as well, a lot of time people will live in fear and then in anxiety. And you'll ask, so what happened? When did it start? You take a, comprehensive thorough case history. Then you realize very often that there was I would say, the initial event or something happened where the anxiety got really bad. And then the anxiety gets worse because we top up with creating stories. Mm-hmm. So somebody has social anxiety. Maybe something happened when he was at school and somebody mocked him, and then that's it. Boom. Event. Now I can't speak in public. I can't be with too many people because I get anxious. So the fact is real. Something happened in school, or somebody laughed at him when he talked about whatever. The teacher asked for everybody to talk about the family, the stories. The child talks, the pupil talks. Everybody laughs at him. He feels humiliated. Then he starts. He goes into high school, goes to college, university, etc., and he carries this wound of, I'm not good at talking. Oh my God, don't make me talk. I can't do that. He gets a good job in a company, but he's not very good at putting himself forward, presentation, etc. So one event happened, but then the person, very often the child, even then the adult, keeps topping it up. It's like topping your phone up with stories. Stories of, oh no, because the mind, as you said, keeps you safe. The mind says, remember what happened to you when you were 6. You speak in front of all these people. This is what's going to happen. But then we fuel it with more stories. And that's how you get crippled. So I help people unravel those stories and say, right, what is the fact here? Let's tidy. We do a bit of spring cleaning.
Right.
What is the fact? What are the facts? Because they're valid facts. And we all need a certain amount of anxiety because it keeps us alive as well. You need to know if you cross the road, you need to be alert.
Right.
Is it green? Can I cross? That's the positive.
Big fear coming at you, be afraid. Yeah.
Absolutely, the good fear.
Yeah.
You need to, or somebody is trying, to attack you. Obviously, thankfully, you have those, anxious and fearful feelings because you need to protect yourself. Right. Like the animal kingdom, that's what they do, Yeah. But then, obviously, very often in our society, anxiety is crippling. It's hindering you, but there's no miracle cure. But once you start helping people to understand how the brain works, that it protects you, but also to unravel all the stories, the person can see clearly and think, okay, so this is a cognitive distortion. Sometimes, it's not true. And it's also helping them understand it is not true because it doesn't exist. Yes, it's in your body, but this is not happening. Right. When we project, when you over worry, when we're anxious about potential things to come, these are stories. They are not the facts. So it takes time, but we get there in the end.
No, but it's good because most normal people don't know this. They have no clue where it stems from. And you'd never see it yourself. So it's awesome that you can help uncover because you just never assume what's happening to me at this age is something that happened to me when I was 5 years old. It really, I just know from my own personal experience, it's like taking a weight off your shoulders. Like, now you know, and now you can work around it or work with it, but in a more productive way. And so that's
and I had a client very briefly. Had a client. He was in his 40s. A couple of years ago, maybe 2 years ago, and he lived in the countryside here in Ireland. And he came to me. So I'm vegan. I love animals, and that's my belief. And he came to me for a fear of frogs. It was funny because I'm French, and I thought he was joking. He said, "Are you really joking? Like you're a frog?" So we had a bit of a laugh. I said, "No, I genuinely have a fear of frogs." I said, "Okay." So so we chatted and everything. He was very anxious. So he lived in the countryside. There was a pond, and he could hear the frogs. He was very spooked. And then we just chatted, and the initially was just, I think, the discovery call. And asked him how was his childhood, just like basic question as a therapist, what went through with, how did it go at school and all that. And then as we were talking, he remembered, he actually triggered something. He said, oh my God, when I was in primary school, my mates at school wanted to have like a joke, and they were, outside and near the water, near the pond, and they actually threw a frog at him, or two frogs at him. He was very small. And that spooked him. And again, it sounds very weird, from the outside, from the adult. And I looked at, oh my God. And that stuck with him, that frog, danger, frog attacking me, but not the frog. People were attacking him.
Like a frog.
And the frog was actually, a symbol of my attack when I was in primary school. So then when you would walk along the pond, you would hear the frogs, and he would just, the mind would bring him back. Because that's what the subconscious does, huh? The subconscious, by trying to protect you, replays, it's like a broken record, replays the scenario until, as I explained, you weed out and you replace by a more positive pattern.
Right.
And then we got there, we worked together, and he's fine with frogs now. But because we dissociated that, frogs, not danger.
Yeah. That's crazy.
No. It's another example. But
yeah, well, I used to always, I was in a relationship, very bad, abusive relationship. I couldn't get out of it, blah, blah, blah. Aside from that, I used to have nightmares for years about being stuck in an elevator. And it was the same. I don't normally remember my dreams, but this was going on every single night, just terrified. I knew the elevator, I was stuck in it. And I remember talking to somebody, and they were like, that's basically, you're trapped. You're stuck in something that you can't get out of. Once I was finally out of that relationship, I've never had that dream again. But your body is trying to tell you. It can't just write it out for you, but it's trying to tell you something. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's trying to show you what needs to be addressed. But again, because, and I get it, we're busy, but life is super fast. It's a fast-paced life nowadays. But unfortunately, yes, we have social media and all this. We wouldn't have met otherwise, that's the beauty of all this. But we also tend now to nearly kind of numb ourselves in the middle of all this, and then we forget to listen to our body, to nature, to the sounds. When we all go out, you go to whatever, the shops, or you walk, we all have a music, earpods or whatever. We forget to even how does it sound to, listen to the birds singing or anything, something very simple. Yeah. So we can't even do that. How are we going to listen to our bodies? And we were very good at just, cream or whatever, pills, whatever, just numb. Yeah. I think we really are in a society where we're just numbing everything because, and that's what tie it up with grief. We're not equipped anymore to see pain. We're not equipped anymore. So somebody is in pain. What do you want to do? Fix him.
Yeah. Have a drink or something.
Because I cannot stand you to see your pain.
Yeah. So, but even with the pain, it's like, we get it, but normal people don't know what it stems from. So it's great that you're helping people bring that out, because you don't realize that this stems from decades ago, Absolutely. So having someone like you bring it out is really important. So now tell me, healing the inner child is a significant aspect of your work. So explain the concept and its importance to overcoming attachment wounds.
No. Inner child, it's an interesting one again. Again, I think it all kind of ties in very nicely what we talked about before. So the concept of the inner child is a couple of decades now ago, probably, I can't remember the date exactly, but I think it was 60s, 50s, or 70s. Oh God, don't hold me. Probably about a good half a century ago at least. Talking about the inner child, it's a concept, it's obviously one person. Some of my clients think, oh, what are you talking about? I don't have multiple personalities. We're not talking about that. You're one person. But the concept of the inner child is that younger version of us, which at some stage in our life had their needs not completely met. Let them be emotional, financial, material, etc. Right. So the inner child is a concept that as an adult, you have some reactions, you have some behaviors that stem from those core wounds, old wounds that are going back to your childhood, this inner child concept. Mm-hmm. And that this inner child, unless it's listened to, acknowledged, healed, will keep affecting your adult life because you didn't get or they didn't get everything as a child. So then you, the adult version of you, has moved on because we are in society. We need to pay bills. We need to look after our loved ones. We need to get on with our life, as we say in Ireland. Get on with your life. But that younger version of us, they're still screaming, listen, nobody looked after me. I was abandoned and I wasn't allowed to eat, or whatever it was, whatever the lack was. Could be just emotional, could be just financial, and the just doesn't even mean anything, but could be one of them, could be all of the needs not met. And the adult has shoved everything under the carpet, hoping, oh dear, this is never going to come back again. But then you have reactions. You have, somebody would blow. You would be in company of people. That happened to me. And then people would look and see what got into her. The anger or the tantrum. And people would even say, oh my God, that was really childish. They would use the word. Like I remember having tantrums myself, and it's not. It's a tantrum. It's literally a tantrum.
Right.
Because the wounds has not been addressed. And in attachment, we're not going to go into the details, but we have what we call the secure or insecure attachment styles. We don't want to box people, but usually when we have had those wounds as a child, could be even having overprotective parents. That could be a wound. Huh? I mean, as much as I love my mother, she's an amazing woman. She overprotects me. And I'm 42 soon. I'm still a baby. And it's amazing. It's a privilege. But I could see it now in my life, how I always fear to lose people because I make sure that they're not, I'm reproducing that as well.
Right.
But in attachment styles, somebody who didn't get one of the parents engaged in them will then very often find a path that mirrors that parent. So either with a dismissive attachment or anxious, depending on their own attachment styles.
Right.
When people ask me, I can't understand why I keep finding the same type of man, the same type of boyfriend, always the type of boyfriend who doesn't want to commit. Because the lady might be, for example, if you take the example of a lady, might be anxious because all she wanted growing up was to be loved, to be showed the love. She didn't get it. And then as she grows up, she will subconsciously be attracted to what is familiar, not comfortable, familiar.
Right.
And reproducing until you start, or at least you work on the healing, however, healing the inner child, healing the attachment. But it all again goes back to that primary needs from your primary caregivers, whoever they are, parents, adoptive parents, tutors, primary caregivers.
People have to take a closer look.
Now, you
offer a free 5-minute mindfulness meditation for relaxation and bad attention needs. Can you share how mindfulness practices can aid in trauma and grief recovery?
So I think when I started to look into mindfulness, I should have looked into this earlier, but better late than never, as my mom would say, better late than never. Mindfulness for me is the key to everything, to a peaceful life. I don't even like to say happy life because happiness is different for everybody. At least to a peaceful life, because mindfulness, especially for anxiety, for trauma, for grief, brings us to now. How am I feeling now? What is going on in my body now? And I think the beauty of mindfulness is, again, it's at the end of the day, it's a very basic concept. Present moment. I think Eckhart Tolle has spoken a lot, still speaks a lot about that. There's nothing else than the present. But the human mind, the trauma brain, the grief brain, the anxious brain, always bring us either in the past or in the future. We travel usually from the past to the future, skipping the present. So, to me, mindfulness is also key to just a peaceful life, like for everybody. It's a hard one, again, due to the fact that it's a different society we live in as well. We're pulled in every direction. So, there's this next week. Are we going away? Do you want to book your ticket? We're already projected in 6 months' time, 8 months' time. So now, and my friend asked me, do you want to go to, sometimes you need to plan things, obviously, but when people ask me for things that is too much in the future, I'm already now, hang on, I don't know.
Right.
I don't know yet. Let me stay
I'll
where
get
I am
back to
now,
you.
just now. I'll get back to you. Because that's how we live in that future or past.
Yeah.
Trauma, grief, past a lot. And then obviously anxiety, it's the future as well. This is going to happen. This is going to happen. It is that vicious loop. And there's a lot of mindfulness practitioners out there with amazing people. It's very complementary to what I do as well. I'm not mindfulness as such, teacher or practitioner. I include some techniques in my work. It's really to give some, I always explain to people when we work together, when we start working together, is that I'm a facilitator and I'm helping them build a toolbox. It's a bit like Bob the Builder.
Okay.
You build your toolbox,
Right.
and then when difficulty arises, you just use the tool you need. You get on with it because we're
That's
not
awesome.
fixing anybody. Nobody's broken. Don't need to be fixed. And every therapeutic process is active. The person has an active role in their own. You have to rescue yourself. I think Tony Robbins said something along the line that you have to participate in your own rescue.
Yeah.
So we just facilitate whoever we are, therapists, grief educator, counselors, mindfulness practitioner, yoga teacher. We just help people to have tools in the toolbox and that they know, because nobody can delete the past, nobody can change how they feel just now, but they can do it using their own tools then.
Awesome. Good job. Now, for listeners who may be dealing with grief or trauma, what initial steps or advice would you offer for beginning the healing journey?
Well, I think, as I said, it's really the free call for me. It's get on that free call because for a couple of reasons. First of all, it's free because I wouldn't like to pay somebody I have never seen. I don't know. I wouldn't like to do that personally. And second is the person you're going to speak to, both of them, me, like the therapist, the coach, the grief educator, and the client need to make sure we're on the same wavelength. Do I understand what you're telling me? Do you feel you can speak to me? Second point. Third point is, then I'm going to explain what I do exactly, how I work. Is that okay with you? It's really like my friends laugh when I say that. It's like speed dating. I'm not doing like speed dating. It's like speed therapy dating or coaching dating. That's who I am. That's what I do. That's what I need help with. Then I explain. Then I might even challenge them on some stuff as well. We bond. It's a rapport. We start building rapport here. And then you feel, I always say to people, I promote myself as a person so people know I'm out there, like a lot of, people who do, but I never really push for my therapy or my mediumship or anything else. I don't need to. It's an energetic thing. People know if they're ready, come to me. If they're not, maybe they're not for me and I'm not for them. The main thing is that they get what they need at the time they need it, whoever it is. But to me, it's very important. The initial step would be that, because then therapy and grief work and trauma work are very important steps. And you don't want to have to tell your story to someone who is maybe not able to meet you where you are on your journey.
Right. Then you're wasting each other's time.
Absolutely.
Anything else you want to talk about that we didn't cover yet?
Oh God, don't say that. We would need another 2 days. But no, I think it's what I would like maybe to finish on would really be, you have the answers. I say that to everybody. We all have the answers within ourselves. But sometimes, as you mentioned a couple of times yourself, it's hidden to protect us. The resources are actually hidden because the mind would rather be in the discomfort because it's familiar than unravel all this and let you use your resources. So I think that final words would be, you are all powerful creators, genuinely. Something I learned in my own therapy with my amazing hypnotherapy teacher is, you're not an unfortunate victim of your past circumstances. You're an ingenious survivor. Once you know that, right, you're going to start doing the work. And you have all the tools. People like myself are just facilitators. It's really important because I don't want people to hang on with me for years. My God. They have a couple of sessions. Sometimes they do need a good couple of sessions when we work around trauma and grief. There's no limit, but it's about empowering people to see that stuff that is difficult. But I have the answers now. I'm equipped. I can deal with it and then maybe come out on top of. So that's really it. My final words will be, you've got everything within you. Just find the person who can help you to unleash that so you can then
Right.
get on with your life.
That's great. That's better than the doctors nowadays. Or, I knew somebody who was in therapy for 15 years. It's like, it was a couples therapy. They wound up getting divorced, but it was kind of like 15 years. I mean, come on, it shouldn't, but what you're doing is great because you're helping them, but you're equipping them to be able to handle this on their own.
That's the base of
awesome.
empowerment, I had a client was really, actually, I laughed. I wasn't funny on that at the moment, but she came to me. It was a client I started to work with, and then she said, "Oh, Nadia, I need to introduce you to somebody. She's amazing. She's my psychotherapist." I said, "Okay." I mean, I'm always happy. I love networking, meeting people. I'm a people's person. I've been working with her for 22 years, every Monday. And I was like, "Oh my God." Somebody just came into me and I said, "Oh my God." I didn't say anything to the client, obviously, but 22 years every Monday. I mean, talking about empowerment. We need therapy. There's no limit to therapy. I mean, I have people who can work with me for 2 years. But at some stage, I do push back. I had a couple of clients said, "Oh, Nadia, I now have this and I have that." I said, "No, you suffer from what we call the withdrawal symptom. Nadia's withdrawal. You don't need me anymore. Go and spread your wings and see. Life happens to everybody, for everybody. Once we have as many tools as we can, just use them, and see how we get on. And then if we need extra help, then yes. But we have to also go into the world like a baby, The baby will start crawling and then walking. And they'll fall a couple of times, but then they'll get back up and walk again. So that's really, for me, the principle of empowerment.
And how can people get a hold of you?
No, if they put my first name and surname and they put Dublin or Ireland, they'll definitely find me. There's only one. And then otherwise, on my website, they will find all my social medias. Again, my social media is my first name and my surname. My website is www.nbhypnotherapy-mindcoaching.com.
Awesome.
And I'm very responsive. I love what I do. So if they don't get an answer, it really is that I didn't see it.
Nice. Well, thank you again for being on the show. Again, that was Nadija Bajrami. Thanks for listening to Successful Minds with Patty B. Never miss an episode by subscribing, and be sure to click the bell notification to be notified of new episodes. So
thank you again.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to Successful Minds with your host, Patricia Barnowski-Schneider. Please leave your feedback and visit strategicadvisorboard.com to get the latest and greatest business advisement on the planet. Follow us on social media for updates, and we'll see you on the next episode.